What is going on, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about somebody who could potentially be one of the strongest characters in One Piece, Akainu. And before I get into that, I would just like to say that this video, the Friday video, and the Sunday video are all going to be pre-recorded. I am recording them like 6 or 7 days in advance because starting today, probably right about the time that this video goes up, I am going to be pretty much boarding a flight to go to Las Vegas, since tomorrow, or pretty much tonight, is going to be my 21st birthday. So yeah, I'm in for quite a ride the next few days. That shouldn't affect you guys too much, because then that means that the videos will still be rolling in despite me not being here. But just letting you know, because I won't be responding to comments as much as I'm usually able to. I will be bringing my Chromebook, so hopefully whenever there's some dead periods throughout the days that we're there, I can just, check up on what's going on, maybe respond to a few comments. I will have my phone, which I have the Discord app for, so I still will be able to respond to some of the stuff going on in my Discord, which, by the way, there's a link for in the description of every video, so you should definitely check that out. But yeah, just letting you guys know, videos are already pre-uploaded. I will be back on like Monday-ish, so I will be answering a lot more comments by that time. So yes, back to talking about Akainu. I wanted to make this video discussing how strong he really is, how strong he could be, because out of all the characters who I have talked about how strong they are, like Marco and whatnot, this might be the one that is being called for the most, because in my comments, so many people have different ideas of what his strength really is. Some people think he's bound to be the strongest character in the series, while some people think he's the weakest of every Admiral we've seen so far, and even go as far as to say that they already know he's going to be weaker than Green Bull as well. I think both of those ideas are completely ridiculous, and there's no way that either of them are true. And I would just like to take the time here to analyze all the things we've seen from Akainu, the things that we haven't really seen on screen but have heard about, and how important I think they are in the story. So first of all, just comparing him to the rest of the Admirals, I think that he has to at least be on the higher end here. And for one thing, I don't think we can really compare him too much to Fujitora or Green Bull. Green Bull especially, since he hasn't even been introduced in the story yet. And Fujitora just because we haven't really seen a lot out of him. If I had to say whose Devil Fruit I think is stronger, at this point at least, I'm probably going to give it to Akainu. I could definitely see Fujitora as having more potential, but at least at this point, based on what we've actually seen from both of their Devil Fruits, I'm going to have to give Akainu the W, at least just in terms of Devil Fruit abilities. So those two are kind of wild cards. It's hard to say really if Akainu could be stronger than them. I think he's probably at least stronger than one of them, but we will see in the future. And just talking about the original Admirals, we have Kizaru, Aokiji, and Akainu. I think that it is most likely that Akainu was the strongest of the three, and if he wasn't going to be, I think it would be Aokiji. People are probably really confused as to why I think Aokiji could potentially be stronger than Akainu, but let me get into that in a second. The reason that I think that Kizaru would be the weakest of them is, well, pretty much because Akainu and Aokiji were the only two that were actually recommended to become the Fleet Admiral in the middle of the time skip. Kizaru was just kind of left in the dust, he wasn't really talked about at all. And of course, there are the people that are always just like, well, yeah, but that's because his idea of unclear justice, he doesn't really have any strong stance like the two of them on how to run the government. Of course, even the more ridiculous one, he's just too lazy, he doesn't really give a fuck about anything, he could never be a Fleet Admiral because of that. I mean, I understand those arguments. I think unclear justice isn't really a strong enough reason that he couldn't become the Fleet Admiral. For one thing, I don't see why he couldn't run the Marines with that kind of mindset, with that kind of ideology. I don't really see why that would hold him back. I believe that he very well could operate with that kind of thing in mind, unclear justice. I don't see why he couldn't apply that to the Navy if he was to be on top. And with him just being too lazy, I mean, that's just so ridiculous. I'm so sick of hearing that, I really am. I mean, okay, why can he become an admiral if he can just have this ridiculous attitude of being super lazy and never trying his best, even if it's going to completely destroy the future of the Navy, like allowing Luffy to escape, which was made very clear to be a huge problem for the Navy. Why would he be allowed to have this rank of admiral? I mean, I understand Fleet Admiral is on top, but Admiral is the thing right before that, and it could very well be equal in actual power. So I don't understand how that is even close to a reasonable argument for really what is going on with Kizaru. I understand he is a jackass, he does kind of like trolling, but I don't think he's ever really not going all out in a fight when it's against someone who actually matters, like in his kind of skirmish against Marco and his fight against Rayleigh. People always say that he wasn't trying against Rayleigh. Give me a fucking break, dude. That is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard, and it doesn't make any sense for any part of this story. It doesn't make sense for the plot, it doesn't make sense for his character, it doesn't make sense of the reactions of people going on there. It just in no way, shape, or form makes sense that he's ever just not trying his best. So while keeping that in mind, I think that Aokiji and Akainu have to be stronger than Kizaru. So it's got to be between them, and then of course there's the, well, okay, then it just goes to Akainu, because Akainu defeated Aokiji in their battle on Punk Hazard. Yes, I think that is most likely the case. I just kind of assume that at this point. But I also am kind of working on a theory, not really sure how far I'm going to get with it, but I just kind of have this idea that it's possible that Akainu did not actually defeat Aokiji. I think it's more than possible that they had, this 10-day fight, Aokiji versus Akainu. It's probably not just a full-on physical battle, right? It's not them just launching attacks at each other for 10 days straight. I'm sure with their strong senses of justice, very much contradicting each other's, there's going to be a lot of verbal warfare here. It's going to be a clash of ideologies. They're going to be kind of, I don't want to say talking this thing out, but kind of like yelling it. And it's probably not really going to be so much of a discussion, more of just like a fuck you, you have no idea what you're talking about, this is how it should be, back and forth at each other. And I think it's very possible that Aokiji actually could have won this battle, and after everything he'd heard from Akainu, and the fact that the people that were actually on top of the Navy besides Sengoku backed him, they wanted him to be the fleet admiral. He's like, you know what, fuck this. I don't want anything to do with this military. I don't want to be a part of this. I think it's going to be disastrous, and if anything, I think he kind of wants to help take them down now. I think it also makes a lot more sense that Aokiji would have let Akainu go after defeating him. I mean, that's really just not surprising in general for Aokiji. He doesn't really have any extreme purpose to kill Akainu. That's not really his style, at least as far as I've seen. I mean, the fact that he never even was able to actually kill Robin, I think that's, pretty big thing. He pretty much should have killed Robin by all accounts, but he didn't because he kind of has a soft heart, in my opinion. And to kill Akainu, I mean, that just seems like even more extreme. So I think it would make sense that he wouldn't do that. And what really makes even less sense is that Akainu would let Aokiji go. I just don't think he's the type of guy to do that at all. He's been shown killing his own men for not following his sense of justice, and Aokiji pretty much has the opposite sense of justice of him. So after defeating him in a battle, after a 10-day battle where they're just at their wits' end with each other, I cannot imagine a world where Akainu would spare him. I don't think it really makes any sense, so I think it's definitely possible that Aokiji could have actually defeated Akainu and could be stronger than him, but I'm not exactly sure on that. Keep in mind also, though, that even if I am leaning towards the idea that Aokiji could have defeated Akainu, that doesn't necessarily mean that Aokiji is stronger than him, because I at least personally believe that his Devil Fruit counters Akainu's. I think it's just kind of a bad matchup for Akainu, so there's kind of that going on. He could be overall stronger and just couldn't defeat Aokiji because of the counter, kind of like Cracker versus Luffy. I think Luffy could have been stronger than Cracker at the time, but the counter was just way too hard, so you couldn't really beat him straight up. And moving on, just from comparing the admirals to each other, Akainu had some pretty interesting feats in the War of the Best. He was the only person to go up against Marco and not really be fighting a losing skirmish, I guess you could say. Marco kind of, I don't want to say embarrassed, I did say that in an earlier video, but kind of had a, pretty easy time dealing with Aokiji and Kizaru prior to facing off Akainu, where not just were they kind of like equally powered, but Akainu eventually overpowered him. I think that Akainu had, been considerably less fatigued at this point, so that could be reasoning behind that. But still, he did a much better job of facing off against Marco, so there is that to consider. And he also did a pretty good job going head-to-head 1v1 with Whitebeard. Of course, Whitebeard really did destroy him even when he was pretty much on the brink of death, but I thought he did a pretty good job. He was able to take a lot of different hits. I mean, Whitebeard should have the advantage in every way, shape, and form. He should have been the strongest character alive at the time, with maybe some unknown exceptions, I guess you could call them, like maybe Dragon or something. But Akainu went right in there. He had the confidence to do so. He landed some hits. He took a lot of hits. That is one of the most important things about Akainu so far, at least from what I've seen, is that his endurance has to be the highest of anything we've seen in the entire series so far. I mean, he was able to take a lot of different hits from Whitebeard. Most importantly, the one which seemed to me to be Whitebeard at absolute full power, a shot to the head. Just his fist powered up by the Quake Fruit, completely launching massive power into Akainu's head. I mean, this attack completely destroyed the base of Marineford, the foundation. It went into shambles, everything collapsed. Akainu like fell underground because of this, like hundreds of feet underground. And that attack was aimed directly at Akainu's head. I have to imagine this guy's armament hockey is absolutely off the charts, probably one of the highest out of any character we've seen so far, so that is extremely important to consider. We also have a lot of people who believe that Akainu likely has an awakened Logia Devil Fruit, which is not something we've seen so far, thanks to what happened in Punk Hazard, but I don't really want to include that at this point because, you know, I don't think that there's enough evidence to say that right now. And I also have my own theories about what did happen at Punk Hazard. I do think it could have likely been an awakening, but I think it's a lot different than what people are thinking it is right now. So I would like to just sit on that for potentially a later video, probably in the near future, since I did just make the Awakened Paramecia video, and I did promise to probably make an Awakened Logia video, mainly talking about my thoughts on what happened in Punk Hazard. So while I think that is kind of valuable information and something that should be kept in the back of our minds, I'm not going to be making it a major point of the argument here. But so yes, with everything I just talked about in mind, that's pretty much everything we have seen from Akainu so far. All of just the positioning he's been given in this story. I think he's got to be one of the strongest characters in the series. He's easily got to be top 10. I think he has to be probably either the strongest or second strongest member of the Navy. I'm not including the Gorosei because I don't think that they're actually a member of the Navy, and I also think that their power levels are extremely questionable. I think I might make a video about that as well in the future. I don't think that all of them are just automatically stronger than Akainu and whatnot, so I think that he's either got to be number 1 or 2 in the Navy right now. I'm not including Sengoku either, because he seemed to be retired to me. That is kind of what he said, so yes, I think he's got to be either 1 or 2 in the Navy. That's super huge. The Navy is actually supposed to be the strongest faction as of right now, according to Dofi, and I don't think he was really just pulling that out of his ass, so I think that's very important. Akainu's got to be at least top 10 in the series, very likely top 5. So yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about this topic. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Remember to leave me a comment letting me know what you thought about this video. If you think Akainu really is just the weakest of all the admirals, let me know. Maybe he is. I'm just not seeing it at all, but I suppose it is a possibility. Thank you very much for watching until the very end if you've made it this far. And remember, I'm going to have the future videos on Friday and Sunday already uploaded, so you will hear from me on Friday.